Salutations, my fellow simian cinema citizens, and welcome back to See No Evil, a show about movies and the heaven-sent wonder of monkeys. God bless. Ah yes, salutations. It was always the awkwardest guy in school employing that corny greeting, and casually using the word employing. It's also where he learned too readily relying on alliterations generally a no-no. Halloween's guaranteed a whole of Hollywood, scary or not, some of which I'll bring to your attention in today's show. As usual, lol, 3 episodes in, I want to share some trailers that caught my eye, came out this week. A documentary with bundles of love for a stack of chipsets, the true story of a little Mars rover that could, I must be doing the robot for a reason. A girl evil robot is taking away all the honest murder from Chucky, thanks gender, in another reliably fun Blumhouse horror. And I feel like I run a mile swinging a ball mace and waving a grenade. Holy sh**, this Korean action looks intense. Then Friday's releases just passed. In most countries, you'll be able to cast your eye on Vesper. It looks hopeful. It's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi about our collapsing environments and food systems. Hey, the Amazon's on the brink of flipping to savannah. I bless the rains. Also released, Park Chan-wook. That's the rest of the show from now on. The master filmmaker's back. We chat and salivate at decision to leave. Park Chan-wook. The Banshees of Inisherin's in the house, the big one with the large silver screen. I'm all hands on for this grumpy Gleason / flummoxed Farrell friendship meltdown, and all of these will receive a swift kick in the Black Adamian nuts as soon as they try to go head to head with DC's Black Adam. Later in the show, I cast crit at Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. We shy away from nothing here at See No Evil. If it's got photons and noise, we're gonna talk about it. And capping it all off, we celebrate a decade anniversary of one of the weirdest of the decade, Holy Motors. But the word weirdest isn't good enough, as we'll rabbit hole it with all these whys and what fors of Carax's madness, all here on See No Evil. It's time for The Baboons, the segment where we hastily move on from that appalling pun, damage control by saying news a lot, and this week cover a handful of exciting casting news, high hopes news, for some future projects news. Good evening, it's the news. This week in Overkill castings for his next movie, and director Yorgos Lanthimos has booked Jesse Plemons, Margaret Qualley, Emma Stone, and Willem Dafoe, all in the same place. Presumably, Lanthimos aims to press the actors into Oscar mass production to rival the Academy itself. His previous talent storm was The Favourite, of course, which scored Emma Stone a nomination and incredibly got Olivia Colman an Oscar for her first leading role, which she was brilliant in. Watch The Favourite. Hopefully it finally lands Willem Dafoe gold after 4 nominations, maybe even Jesse Plemons, who's consistently a sleeper secret weapon whenever you see him in a movie. That's 2023 at this point, no specific dates just yet, but Yorgos Lanthimos is a great director. Killing of the Sacred Deer, The Lobster, as well. When you think of Liam Neeson, you might think of a succession of filmmakers more and more lazily repackaging Taken after Taken after Taken. Kinda downward spiral trapped in their own hostage situation, aren't they? So he's finally just cut some corners to the logical conclusion of doing a spoof movie. Yes, aggro grandpa Liam Neeson's joined Akiva Schaffer's reboot of Naked Gun to play the son of doofus detective Frank Drebin. Originally Leslie Nielsen, big respect, and rest in peace. Do yourself a solid, and watch Schaffer's Chip and Dale, by the way, from last year, was actually very good, the writers of which, Dan Greger and Doug Mand, joined The Lonely Islander in giving us a Neeson as we've never seen him before. I'm looking forward to that. Might be a nice change. The dude is a dynamic, fantastic actor, 110%, even in a movie that's like worth 20. Liam Neeson. And finally, the actor who had both you and me blubbing for his standing ovation, sweet, sweet angel baby Brendan Fraser, swears he's ready to have a whale of a time in the desert again. Flirting with a return to The Mummy, this year's serious Oscar contender for The Whale, said in an interview with Variety, "I don't know how it would work, but I'd be open to it if someone came up with the right conceit. Our mission, dear CNE viewer, at least 5 right conceits for Brendan Fraser's Mummy 4 daily until this beloved large king says yes. And that's the news. I've rifled through a week's worth of trailer trash to bring you 4 movies to keep an eye out for. I swear I lose 10 years whenever I make myself say that shit. Time to cut banana rations in the writer's room. These are some brand new trailers released this week, big and small. You might want to register on your radar till release day. They just had to go and remake Wall-E Gritty, didn't they? Seen out his days on Mars in a mean drinking habit to forget about the crimes. No, it's a sweet looking documentary about NASA's Opportunity rover, the pain of birth, pushing it into outer space, hoping it dodges apocalyptic Martian storms and that it eats enough sun. You get this crazy sense from the trailer of every premature NASA hurrah, like, awesome, it didn't crash. Now it just has to perform this other make or break delicate task perfectly. No biggie. Only expected to max 90 days of operation, somehow fought its way solo against a harsh world for 15 years versus those 90 days, trying to prove itself to us. Bring tissues early November for good night Oppie. But you know what? Also maybe absolutely fuck robots. Why would you design it to look like it's programmed to spit, say I dress like the notion of homelessness, and demand to speak with my manager in my own home? This thing looks like an asshole. Anyway, this horror's got a bot gone bad tasked with caring mentally and physically for a recently orphaned kid. Heads up, program a robot to just kick back and watch me drown. Maybe hurl a few motivational one-liners. But the physical guardian thing, 100% murders 100% of the time. Makes for a perfect horror though, so we've got an unhinged, bag of bolts, final form horse girl all foursing, Boston dynamically galloping to murder pesky little boys, and expressionlessly, creepily TikTok dancing like Oscar Isaac jarringly cutting a rug with a droid a la Ex Machina. What a sentence mark! Looks like a hoot, I'm off to live under a rock, Megan boots up and gets to head stomping about January. And finally, because it might finish you, I coughed up a ripe adrenal gland inflicting its first trailer on myself, and now Hunt's got a second to make sure the job's thoroughly done, which fortunately only made me explosively soil myself front and back. Seriously, there is nothing I learned from the first trailer, only that those 2 minutes were my favorite action movie of 2022. And that is a bit of a worry for some critics who are saying in the festival circuit that the real life 80s Korean politics get a bit too convoluted for the storytelling, but at least it seems to have the propulsion of the Raid, the slickness of Heat, and probably makes The Departed / Infernal Affairs seem like a blissful meditation on the duality of man. 2 movies I really loved. Also, that's everyone's favorite shaggy frontman from Squid Game fame, Lee Jung-jae, cleaning up nice and directing for his first time on this one. I don't see a date for this in wide release just yet, but probably best Hunt just stays an ever-present threat to our PTSD for now. Soon as we learn more, you'll hear it here, first and last. Rest in peace me. I look forward to the hunt. Last Iron Wish. This weekend, a heap more movies than last decided to suicidally wedge themselves between the rock and a hard place. At best, all second in sales to Black Adam. Here are some of the latest, most intriguing gore releases on the cinematic sacrificial altar of another DCEU blockbuster, and a reminder of Egyptian Chunky Boy himself, of course. All with a very high likelihood of landing on your country as of Friday past. Part of a distressing trend, aka imminent reality, of kid-centered apocalyptica, I'm burning fossil fuels to get to Vesper ASAP. The trailer paints an opaque, weird world where apparently humankind engineered organic doodads to get climate change in check, only to end up with vast, desolate, blasted heath and inhospitable forests full of future creepy crawlies as a result of us attempting to salvage the situation. But who's us? As always, haves dictate a managed existence to have-nots. Spiking seeds to only produce single harvests. Wait a second, that sounds a bit too close to the truth. But tiny heroine Vesper shows an otherworldly knack to magic those beans to feed us all. Feels a bit Snowpiercer, I'm all aboard. Well, maybe let's rather walk to Vesper. Take the environmentalist message and all that. Finally, one of 2022's most anticipated movies. From the master director who made you want to study film in the first place. Who made you want a close quarters hammer fight a heap of dudes in a claustrophobic corridor. Who made you want to delve deeper into the miracle world that's Korean action / noir / ass whoopery he co-made. Park Chan-wook, It's Decision to Leave. The granddaddy of old boys slowed it down a bit here, but it looks every bit as intoxicating. A detective is ensnares himself in a dangerous game with the widow of a recently mysteriously deaded man. If you don't know the Korean crop of world-beating mystery thrillers, this looks as rewarding as Gone Girl and more gorgeous to boot. Yet another threat in my bank. You can survive on popcorn, right? I raved about it with the trailer drop last week, and I'm still on a screeching high. What was that? For the grumpiest hull, Banshees of Inisherin. Screeching high, I stress again, as a strong positive sign for a dude who couldn't give two hoots about 3 billboards. To be as enticed as I am with the prospect of a climactic "what's in the box" style meltdown about exactly why Gleason unfriends Farrell, it's gotta be a good thing. Me, the grouch about his previous movies, Martin McDonough. Come watch Banshees with me. Let's be friends, then let's dump each other. And the reason all 3 of those likely wonderful movies will death spiral into the box office abyss, Black Adam's coming to collect. Presumably pitched on high in anticipation of every rock and sand pun dumb shows like this one plan to make. And because his son's dead, of course. Will it lead him down the path of good or evil? Or Scorpion King 5? Was there a 4? There's probably been a bunch. I just hope we get to see more than just this fight going down in the Yellow Town, and that it's not too fun-phobic, because Shazam was lots of fun, but design looks slick enough. That's Black Adam, out near you.
Black Adam is something that has been part of my DNA and my soul. Ever since I was a kid, reading comic books, I always gravitated towards Black Adam because he was one of the few who looked like me. Plus, he was always badass.
DJ has had such a deep passion to make this film many years now, and he really has just taken the bull by the horns.
I always knew that if we were ever to make Black Adam a reality, it would require the hardest work that I've ever put in my life.
Anthony Fabian, director of Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
Hello, JP.
You're telling an interesting story of Paris that we've not seen before. You're also talking about unseen people, domestic workers, heavily exploited people. What is it that makes you want to zone in on those subjects?
There is a part of me that wants to champion the unseen. I think one of the truly magical things about this film is that she is an underdog, and she is so delightful and such an authentic and kind person that you can't help rooting for her.
Talk us through making that centerpiece scene of the fashion show in Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
We wanted the Dior element to be very authentic, because although it is a fairy tale, it is grounded in reality, and the more we could bring of reality to the story, the more that balance between magic and realism would be found.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's director Anthony Fabian for his Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, presently still doing the rounds on the big screen. And sacre bleu, why would I be talking senior Sunday cinema on this channel? It was all in that verbose CNE pilot manifesto. Nothing's off the table here. We're broadening our horizons, man. Take a deep drag and discover your inner nana. We talk anything from Agnes Varda to This Is Sparta on See No Evil. But something I'd immediately clear up about Mrs. Harris. She's a wily old dog. You absolutely would be forgiven for thinking this was just another forgettable alder-fodder film, a 90-minute feel-good distraction as good as a brisk game of bingo. But I found myself pleasantly surprised that Mrs. Harris seems intent on saying something too, and not just leaving you with a momentary glow. She's a domestic worker in the 50s who finally faces the sad fact the war took her husband. During the sorrowful low, she has a kind of a transformative encounter with a Christian Dior dress at a client's house, enchanted by its beauty. Possibly as some sort of catharsis, a shot at re-inviting magic and love back into her life, she obsessively resolved to go to the designer house herself and buy one of her own. With her husband's war pension, a little bit of elbow grease, and a lot of hustle, she sets her mission in motion and once in Paris encounters different obstacles and opportunities. All in some bedrock of different types of romances, yada yada. And what do I mean by those different types of romances? For instance, the younger staff at Dior are adoringly swept up in this nobody's dream, quietly rooting for and abetting her efforts, even against their superior, in the legend Isabelle Huppert, 2016 Oscar nominee for Elle, who turns her nose up at and turns away this commoner come for couture. This sense of a magic she sparks, of belief in the hearts of the workers, and their solidarity with her path is instantly hella endearing, actually. cross-generational and intra-class respect for an age group usually relegated to a tool of the younger love in other movies, a fairy godmother, etc., and nothing more. In fact, just this year, at least 2 other big movies recognized seniors' exercise of agency, grabbing destiny by the danglers, quite literally in Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, which was excellent, and 3,000 Years of Longing, which was lacking.
No.
I think it's taken me a while to just get to the lead's name because how to do justice to such an impressive actress. Lesley Manville elevates this entire movie at least 2 stars, single-handedly. Mrs. Harris could have easily fallen victim to that forgettable fodder wheelhouse, if not for the acting force she brings to screen.
Fancy-free.
Fully didn't expect myself to get foggy-eyed when she reads the letter about her husband. And any sequence where she's walking on a cloud, enamored with a dress, or in an altered state through the cut and trim of the atelier, the fancy word I learned from this movie for designer workshop, she evokes this exact thrill in you too. Even I was legitimately starry-eyed at the prettiness of it all, and I know precisely jack shit about fashion. I've shown up to a red carpet event with naught but a bargain bin copy of Jackie Chan's masterpiece, The Tuxedo, only to learn people actually wear these and aren't spies when they do. And they still wouldn't let me put it on. And while Lesley Manville is absolutely now one of the most underappreciated greats, some of the dreaminess is down to the clever photography of Felix Wiedemann, bringing dresses beautifully to life too. And serious props must also go to costume designer Jenny Bevan, having stood and whooped for her in 2016 for her Fury Road Oscar win. Seamless interplay with the cinematography, moods and worlds all of their own, these designs, all from her valiantly absorbing over a decade of Dior drafts. Speaking of worlds, in a social sense, there are 2 that catch refreshing daylight for a mainstream movie: London and Paris, and Class Warfare. It's nice seeing London represented diversely, and salt-of-the-earth blue-collar community relate warmly on public transport, in cozy back-alley pubs, and London dance hall. On the Paris front, it must have taken heroic will to not include iconic stuff like the Eiffel Tower as a staging point. Year 2, this is not the fairy tale Paris we've been fed for years. She is welcomed by vagabonds who gleefully part ways with, and remember, in Paris, the worker is king. Then she's straight into garbage-strewn streets and militant demonstrations by waste workers out to correct what's owed. These are pretty underseen worlds, even in real life, where in mainstream media there's little out there on Gilets jaunes, the firefighter strike, and now, as I speak at you, the cost of living protests all over France. And interestingly, while her life's as much a struggle as anyone else's, it's not the defining character of her journey. No suffering in scenes of paid housekeeping in which she takes pride and is quite methodological about. Any indignity arises in dehumanization and wage theft by her boss, and not in the labor itself. And that's the other world worth shedding light on. The underseen, spoken over labor of domestic work. Recent empowerers shed light on 2, like The Shape of Water, which I really like. It's not without its superfluous fluff, but the cast is strong through it all. Take your mom or gran to the sentimental 7 and go ahead and catch a gentle cry yourself, maybe. Now here I am, honored as hell to be chatting with a co-star you might most fondly remember as The Matrix's Merovingian, Lambert Wilson. Strength. My name is JP Lambert Wilson. It is a great honor to be speaking with you today. Thank you.
Thank you for talking to me.
What draws you to a character like the Marquis? And the story overall, what draws you to it?
Tony Fabian, the director, is a friend of mine, and it was when he asked me to portray the Marquis, it was normal for me to accept the role and to be part of the story. I was honored to be part of it. It's only when we got on the set and that I started working with Lesley Manville that I realized that he had his little mission in the film. I think also, to tell you the truth, we were so happy to go back on a set because it was just after the end of the lockdown, and it was just irresistible in a way to be part of a period film with all these fantastic actors, and so I was happy to be in it.
Beautiful movie and delightful it was. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
And, thank you.
Thank you for this movie. Ciao. Last year, Hollywood birthdayed me something appropriately weird in the form of a net, as a card-carrying weirdo myself. It starred 2 of your faves who managed to straddle mainstream and left of field pretty snugly somehow. Marion Cotillard of Rust and Bone to some, The Dark Knight Rises to others, and Adam Driver of Logan Lucky and Kylo Chest. I mean, Torso Ren. I mean the last chest guy. Anyway, long chest short, it also marked the LA landing of card-carrying weirdo director Leos Carax in his English language debut. So that's where you might know the dude for whom we roll out this week's Cine-Anniversary. Specifically that he's balls to the wall strange Holy Motors turns 10 years old this week. So if you by any chance liked what you saw with Annette, it gets better or at least wilder. This fever dream of a movie is kinda episodic a la Monty Python Life of Brian, and with similar micro-examinations of daily stuff we just consider normal. Or better yet, My Beloved True Stories by my beloved David Byrne, which you should also go give a look. It follows a largely mystery dude, an actor or performer being chauffeured across Paris between various appointments to act the part of a banker, a broody hobo lady, a hardened gangster out for revenge, a dude on a deathbed, and a leprechaun thing on a warpath poetically named Monsieur or Mr. You know, day-to-day stuff. But really what I mean when I use that word daily is how much Holy Motors is a tale about how movies permeate our lives, and how with these diverse appointments it tangles with how movie character tropes, stereotypes, cliches, stimulus and response we might learn from appear and function in our lives. Like, did I pick up this chin stroke from TV? Is it me? How much of me is performance? How much of me is authenticity? And is there really a dichotomy, a trade-off between these supposed binaries of authenticity and performance? These are also very David Byrne questions, by the way. Big Talking Heads fan over here. But as a talking head, also and possibly more importantly, there is a character named Mr. who is truly a little shit. You ever want to see Mr. Lucky get his charms out? That's right, a money-eating leprechaun at full mast. But quite literally, more importantly, disarming and goofy stuff like Mr. Keep in check any temptation to sort of check out as a person and take a safe laboratory-like distance from what's going on down there on the screen. I think of the centerpiece scene of The Square, where arty monkey man confronts aloof and analytical McNulty, who first smugly laughs off the performance only to find he's inextricably at the center of it and in real danger of being analyzed by the art itself, / dismembered by an overcommitted monkey man. If it's about the interplay between you and movies, be yourself, and if something's weird to you, you probably needn't get too academic. Just go ahead and say, the mocap serpents are silly as fuck. But for all my abuse of the word weird earlier, Holy Motors also kinda mocks you for lazily strictly writing off everything as so weird, without attempting an ounce more thought. You're often on your toes wondering, wait, is this part directed at me? Am I doing the thing it's presently taking the piss out of? But without ever lionizing itself or patting itself on the back. Love it or leave it, Holy Motors is thoroughly thought-provoking stuff, unflinchingly stringing you along until you're too deep to realize you were the protagonist all along. Also, it respects the power of a well-timed day. So happy Cine-Anniversary, Holy Motors. Do watch it.
Vous connaissez le travail de Diane Arbus, par exemple? C'était une grande photographe américaine. Elle faisait des photos avec des nains, des géants, des monstres, des photos très, très humaines.
And on that note, that's where I've got to love and leave you. What did we learn today, kids? Maybe invite a little bit of weird into your life once in a while. You just put up with me for half an hour. Please do go recommend movies that you found strange, but that were actually intriguing. Same time, same place next week. JP Sebastian for See No Evil. When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. Love ya, bye.